Hi guys, this is Basant. In this video we are going to see how to handle exception in web application. So basically I will explain here how to handle Spring REST application and how we can propagate from one layer to another layer, that also we will see here. So let's do one small POC on that. Let's create one Maven project. I am using here Spring Boot exception handling. Okay. Add the required dependency. I am using here temporary database, so I am adding h2 dependency and jpa, adding lombok to ignore write getter and setter, adding web. Anything else we need to add? Adding dev tools to restart server automatically if I am doing any change. So now let's create the package, required package. Creating package model, package service, controller, then database repository. Name it DAO. So let's create a model, like I am creating here one order model. Okay, let's declare 2 3 property. I'm declaring id, product name, declaring category, and amount. Okay, as I added dependency lombok, so I no need to write getter setter manually here. So let's use the lombok provided annotation. It's not giving. Okay, we'll write manually, it's coming. Setter, then add no argument constructor as well, and add entity related annotation, entity, then declare, like mention table annotation. If you want you can specify the table name, else by default it will take your class name as a table name. Order table, and I want to make this id attribute as a primary key, so declare @id, and I want it, no, we'll set it manually so that we can add some dummy data in database. Okay, we have id, matlab we have model. So let's create the DAO now. Order DAO, it should be one interface so that we can extend it from jpa repository and CRUD repository. I am using here jpa repository. Declare your, this type parameter is your model name, our model is order, and this serializable should be the data type of your primary key. We have integer type. Okay. we have order DAO, then create the service, annotate @service. Here I want to perform one operation based on order name. I want to fetch the order price. Okay, so first let's add some dummy order object in our database. Add order to db. Okay, then create list of order object. Okay, import the util package, import the model. Okay, now add some dummy order object, orders.add. Name something like mobile. Category, it's come under electronics device. Okay, amount let's say 8,000. Similar way, add one more object. Change the ID 806, make it like bike, comes under vehicle. Its category is vehicle, and price make 90,000. Okay, so for dummy purpose we added two object, two order object, and I want to fetch price based on the order name. Okay, so I want this data should be persist when my application will be up, so that's why I am using post constructor. Same like init method in XML approach. Okay, now let's get the value from the DAO. It will return us one order object. We need only the amount to display, so no need to return entire object, just make it double. Get price. Okay, and we need to give the input as product name. Okay, and in service we need to call the DAO, so we need to inject the DAO here. Okay, now by calling DAO we'll get the order object, and based on that order we'll get the amount. So let's get entire order object, DAO dot find by name. Okay, this is the this is the syntax we need to follow while using Spring Data JPA. Without writing query, we can get the data from database by method level itself. So this I explained in my previous Spring Data JPA video. If anyone not aware on that, you can check that. So let's declare this method. Pass the input. Here also pass the input. It will give us the product object. Then from product we should return the order dot get amount. Okay, and let's write the controller now. Order controller, annotate @rest controller. Okay, then inject the service in order. using auto add. Now write one endpoint. It will return, let's return some string. Give the input product name. Okay, and you will get the amount. By invoking the service. Okay, so let's return some value like amount for product, the product name which we are giving as input is the amount which we will get from database. Okay, as my request does not contain any body, so we can write it at the rate get mapping annotation. Get price, the URL, and we need to pass the input parameter as part of request URL using path variable annotation. So I am writing here path variable. In this, the code which we wrote already, we didn't add the exception management thing. Let's see what is the issue we are facing and why we should go for the exception handling in that case. First, let's test our application. Run the application as a Java application. Okay, our application run on port 8080 and this is our URL. So let's test now. Localhost 8080, this is our URL. Product name, let's check the dummy data which we added. Let's take the product name mobile. Okay, mobile, for mobile it's not giving. Once again, let's take bike, sorry, mobile. Okay, let's try for bike. Sorry, actually we did only one small mistake. We didn't save this order object to database. Dot save. Let's test now. Okay, amount for product mobile is 8000. Test for book as well. What is that, book or books? Sorry, that is bike. Yes, it's giving 9000 for product bike. Suppose I did some mistake in my input parameter. Let's take it bikes. Okay, so based on bikes, we don't have any object in database. So when we are calling in this DAO in service, here it's giving the null, and null dot get amount is null pointer exception. So in this case, it's difficult to identify the root cause. Null pointer exception means I need to debug my application and I need to find out the root cause for that. Even it is difficult for the end user to understand what is null pointer exception. So that here in this scenario we should go for the exception handling. So let's do that. How we can do the exception handling. Okay, so first of all, let's create one custom exception class. Instead of populate API related exception, we can customize it by creating our own custom exception. Let's create the package. Not exception. Order service exception. Let's name it as order service exception, and let's stop the server. Extends it from exception so that we can make it checked exception. Okay, then add the default constructor with string as argument so that whatever the message will throw, that we can get as part of response when we'll call exception dot get message. This one. Okay, let's remove this, it's not generate properly. Let's take the default. It's working now, fine. Okay, so now handle the exception here. Try catch. Here I am passing exception, that is the root exception, super exception for all. Okay, so always we should write our method invoke logic in try block so that we can avoid for this exception issue. Okay, let's take one variable amount equal to order dot get amount. Okay, instead of return this, we should return the amount. Here what we did, we just keep this line is throwing the exception, so we keep it inside try block, and this is the exception which is the superclass of all. But we don't want this null pointer exception or illegal argument exception or data access exception as part of a response. We want our custom exception, so we handle it using try catch, and from catch we should throw our custom exception. Throw new order service exception, give a meaningful message here, order not found with product, the name which we are giving as part of input. Okay, as it is checked exception and we are throwing it from catch block, so we need to handle using throws, else you can also use the try catch, nested try catch. Okay, so it's giving error in controller cause from controller also we are invoking the same. So as a method caller, controller also need to handle it, so I am here also I am simply throwing it. So here when this exception is throwing in controller, instead of execute those line, it will go to one more advice class, so there it will map the exception details and it will give as part of response. So we need to write that advice, exception advice, so I am writing here itself in controller package. annotate @controller advice. Okay, so before do that we want some proper response, like something like error code and error status or error message. So for that we should create our own DTO. So take like order error. Okay, declare field private int error code, private string error message. Okay, add all our constructor, add no R constructor. Here I will initialize this order error object using the constructor, so I didn't took here getter setter. Okay, then here write one method who will return always this order error. So make it generic, use the response entity. Okay, map exception, any name you can write here. Then we have to pass the exception as a method argument. Okay, so that when we'll call exception dot get message, we can map that message in our order error, that field error message. So annotate this method exception handler, pass your exception class. Okay, now create order error object. Okay, what will keep as a error code, let's default as like internal server error. Okay, so the status code will be 500. You can change it to any like status code you can change. So as of now let's make it 500, and error message is nothing, the message we are returning from our service. Get message. This is the int, so we should call the value method. Okay, then return same, new response entity. Then pass the error object and mention this status code. Okay, now let's run our application and we will see how this exception details is mapping as part of our response. If you mark here, this controller advice class also mapped. So let's check now. Bike it's giving try bikes, yeah. So the error code is 500 because manually we set internal server error and error message, so that it can be easily mapped in UI Angular component. So this is the way we can map the exception message and exception code as part of our response if end user is giving the wrong input. Okay, so that's it about this particular video. If any doubt or any concern, you can add a comment below, and thanks for watching this video.